Which Doctor is the best support hero with the highest win rate in the current patch? I have watched some 3k and 9k MMR average games and noticed similar patterns of mistakes. That's why I decided to create something valuable that you can follow and improve. In 7.36b, Witch Doctor's laning was improved, or more like it became broken, with Voodoo Restoration healing Witch Doctor for half the value, which means if it's dealing 30 damage to enemy per second on level 1, it's healing Witch Doctor for 15 health per second. With the Voodoo Restoration facet, not a single hero in Dora is strong enough to win 1v1 trade with Witch Doctor. Although the hero is pretty straightforward and very easy to play, there are a few things that you need to keep in mind while playing the hero. For starting items, Witch Doctor can have two variations. If you're playing against heroes that have low cooldown spells and are likely to spam their spells in the lane, such as Lich, Troll, Phantom Assassin, Crystal Maiden, etc., you can start with a magic stick as it will help you with managing your healing resources. A set of Tango for healing, Blood Grenade, very important on this hero as it works perfectly with Voodoo Restoration and Maledict. A Sentry to block the hard camp if you're playing position 5, or small camp if you're playing position 4. Mango, as it is really valuable on Witch Doctor because it will help you keep your second spell open for a longer time. A branch for stats and a Fairy Fire because you will be playing very aggressive in the lane. You might need it while trading with enemy heroes to death in the lane. If you don't like to buy Fairy Fire, you can replace it with another branch for the stats. If you're playing against heroes that are not going to spam their spells in the lane, replace the magic stick with a circlet for stats. It's up to you whether you want to buy 2 sets of Tango or 1 set of Tango and a Mango. I don't like to keep my starting items in my backpack, so I would go with 2 sets of Tango in this build. Always take point in Voodoo Restoration on level 1 and fight for Bounty Rune, as Witch Doctor is the strongest early game hero and there is nobody who can contest early game trades with Witch Doctor. Voodoo Restoration has a radius of 700 on level 1. That's more than the attack range of any ranged hero on level 1, which means you can literally just press your W and walk with the enemy heroes, and they can't do anything about it. There are 2 simple rules that you need to keep in mind while laning. Number 1. Don't walk into a position where you can get hit by 2 heroes simultaneously. This is really bad positioning from the Witch Doctor, but it's working because the offlaner is not actively hitting the Witch Doctor and the hero itself is pretty broken because of damage and heal both at the same time. Try to avoid such scenarios where you're getting hit by both enemy heroes together and your core cannot connect. The second thing that you need to keep in mind is the initial mana cost of Voodoo Restoration is 35, but when you keep it on, it only takes 8 mana per second. So every time you use Voodoo Restoration, make sure to keep it on for at least more than 5 to 6 seconds, or maybe 10 if you are constantly damaging the enemy heroes with it. If you press your W randomly for 1 or 2 seconds for each time you use it, you will run out of mana and become useless in the lane. The skill build on Witch Doctor is pretty straightforward. Max your second and third spell. You don't need your stun in the laning stage at least. If you want to get a level into stun, you can get it on level 8, otherwise don't. All you gotta do is press Maledict on enemy hero and walk with them with Voodoo Restoration on. Even the ranged heroes cannot take trades with Witch Doctor when Voodoo Restoration is on. Remember to keep the Voodoo Restoration on for as long as you're damaging the enemy heroes with it. You might get easy first bursts because people don't respect the damage Witch Doctor can do on level 1. Keep buying blood grenades for the laning stage. There are 3 ways that you can watch out for and potentially punish the enemy if you have blood grenade available. First, pull the neutral camp. If enemy comes close to contest it, throw blood grenade and use Maledict on the enemy hero and walk with him with your second spell on. Second, if your enemy comes close to trade attacks with you, you can use the same combo. And lastly, if you notice enemy core coming to last hit the creeps in the lane, use Voodoo Restoration, throw grenade, connect your Maledict and follow the enemy. You don't have to follow the enemy forever. If you have connected your Maledict, you can leave him in the low health. He will eventually die from the Maledict burst damage. Here are a few mistakes that you need to avoid while playing Witch Doctor support. You need to understand that you have the strongest support hero and nobody can take trades with you in a 1v1 scenario. So when you're taking 1v1 fights with enemy support, make sure to keep your second spell on so that they can't even stand and trade you. And secondly, don't put yourself in a scenario where 2 heroes can hit you together and your carry cannot connect. Like for example, right now this Witch Doctor is standing in the middle of Axe and Shaman and they both can hit him together. So avoid going in such scenarios. Again, Shaman is coming in such a bad position. This is a position where Axe cannot come. Now it's a 1v1 situation. Over here, if Witch Doctor uses Blood Grenade, the Shaman dies for sure. But the Witch Doctor gets scared. So you need to understand how strong your hero is, and based on that, you have to keep taking trades. The Shaman lives only because Witch Doctor doesn't realize how strong his hero is. Another mistake, you need to understand when an enemy has more number of creeps than you in the lane, that is when you don't want to take trades with the enemy heroes. Because when you fight the enemy, these creeps will aggro to you and they will deal great amount of damage to you. This is a very general rule which applies to every support hero, but Witch Doctor deals with such scenarios really well. Because Witch Doctor has 700 radius on his second spell, he doesn't need to walk close to the enemy. Even if the creeps aggro to him, he has to walk away from them so that the creeps can do damage. The creeps are still chasing Witch Doctor and Witch Doctor is dealing so much damage. Like right now, there is no point for Witch Doctor to stand here and right click the Shaman. All he gotta do is keep his W on and walk over here. So the creeps are not hitting Witch Doctor and Witch Doctor is also dealing damage to Shaman at the same time. So because he's taking damage from creeps as well, he kills Shaman and he ends up dying, which is not so good trade in this scenario. And Tiny takes a lot of damage as well. So instead of taking creep damage, just take a safer path because your second spell is really broken with the radius it has. You don't even have to right click the enemy, you just need to press this and walk along with the enemy in a range where they cannot attack you while you're dealing damage to them. Here's a similar mistake that a 10k MR support player is making. He's fighting two heroes at the same time and taking hits from them simultaneously when his core cannot connect because he's busy with farming creeps. So please don't walk into two heroes just because you're feeling strong with your second spell. There is no way you can walk into two heroes and take fights with them when your core cannot connect because you're just gonna end up feeling like this. The three scenarios that I talked to you about you can punish the enemy when you pull, an enemy comes to contest it, or enemies coming to take creep and then you can go on him, or if enemy is taking trades and then you can fight with him. If you just stick to them, you're always going to have the best laning stage. And if you avoid the two mistakes that we talked about, not turning it on and off the voodoo restoration again and again, and other mistake was don't take damage from both heroes at the same time. So see, notice how this Witch Doctor pulled, enemy came, he used Maledict using W damage, and there is no way enemy can take trades with him. So if you just stick to the three rules of how you can punish the enemy and two mistakes that you have to avoid, you're always going to win your laning stage. The third spell is so broken that you can actually solo kill enemy cores if you're able to connect it and properly use it. So think hard about how you want to use it and don't miss your third spell. It's really valuable. If your laning goes well, which should if you follow the rules and mistakes not to make that I've mentioned, and your team is playing active on the map, you can follow them and pressure the other lanes with your first aura item. If your team is not doing much or is not ready to do anything, which every support player complains about, that their team doesn't know what to do, no problem. In that case, you can farm in an area where you can easily connect to your team from. Don't prioritize farming over fighting unless you're really close to getting your aura item that you can help your team with in the next team fight. Voodoo Restoration has a big radius. You should farm multiple camps at the same time. It will help you get your items earlier and have a major impact when your team is about to stick together to push towers. Witch Doctor has a wide pool of item choices. Your gameplay will be based on the item build you're making. There are two ways you can play Witch Doctor in the mid game. There is one build where you go for items like Glimmer Cape, Akanim Scepter, Shard, Blink, Ether Lens if you need it. When you follow this build, you're supposed to stay behind your team in team fights, have a good positioning where the enemies cannot jump you, and use your ultimate to deal lots of damage in team fights. The other way to itemize on Witch Doctor is to make aura items that your team can benefit from and make it harder for the enemy to give impact in fights while tanking most of the damage in team fights. There are so many aura items that Witch Doctor can make like Guardian Greaves, Solar Crest, Pipe, Crimson Guard, Glimmer Cape, Drums. I personally like and would recommend going for aura items as this alone can help you win most of the team fights. Imagine enemy support goes for greedy items while you as a support in your team make items that you and your team both can benefit from. In the mid to late game, your impact alone with itemization will be more than enemy supports. When you're playing against a mix of magical and physical damage lineup, you can get Greaves first. If there's not much magical damage from the enemy team, in that case you can get a Solar Crest as your first item. If you're playing against high magical damage lineup like Lyshrak, Zeus, etc., you can get a Pipe as your first item. Crimson Guard is a very good pickup against physical damage lineup and works perfectly against summoners because of the aura it provides upon usage. Witch Doctor Shard is pretty insane. It is a really good buy against lineups where the enemy team has heroes that can jump your hero first and burst you. Heroes like Ursa with Nullifier, Klings, Chaos Knight, etc. will not let you play the game in the late game because they will just jump you and burst you. You can buy a lot of time with Shard and make it hard for the enemy to kill you and bait them into a bad position. If you have Shard and Blink, you can simply use Shard when they jump on you. It has a duration of 3 seconds, same as the downtime of Blink when you're hit by the enemy hero. You can blink out of bad scenarios and your hero would be really annoying and hard to catch. Try to blink in the same direction your hero was facing before using Shard. It takes slightly less time to blink in the same direction. If you blink in totally opposite to where you were facing before using Shard, it will take some extra time which is not noticeable in games, but there are some times when we are unable to blink out. That's only because we blink in opposite direction, which adds a little bit of hero turn time and the blink is not instant. Here, I am going to blink in the opposite direction. Now, I am going to blink in the direction my hero was facing before using the shard. The best timing to consume Gris-Gris is when you are at least 900 gold plus on Gris-Gris and you have some important item coming up in that gold that can potentially win you the team fight. That item could be any item that will help you in the next team fight. Other than that, you can hold it for a longer time and get a big value out of it, but the main timing to use Gris-Gris is when you have a major item coming up. That's it. Don't use it too early on 400 or 500 gold. Gris-Gris basically stacks 1 gold every 3 seconds, which is 20 gold per minute, and all your gold lost from death is also added to Gris-Gris, so it is really valuable to keep it in your inventory for as long as possible and use it when you're close to your big item. In terms of talents, get minus 25 Voodoo Restoration mana per second on level 10, so you don't run out of mana in the mid game and you can easily farm jungle with your second spell. At level 15, take plus 100 Maledict AoE. Maledict is pretty broken spell and if you can get more AoE, it will get easier for you to connect that spell and you might hit multiple heroes with it. At level 20, take plus 30 Maledict burst damage. Very strong spell if you're able to connect the spell. For the last talent, if you're playing the aura build, then you can take the plus 2% target max cell damage because you will be walking in middle of the fight damaging multiple heroes. Otherwise, if you're playing the Glimmer, Scepter, Blink build, then you should opt for plus 45 death ward damage.